Hello, my name is Morgan Towner, and this PowerPoint is about project-based learning. The book that I'm referencing and summarizing is called Reinventing Project-Based Learning, Your Field Guide to Real-World Projects in the Digital Age. And basically, we're gonna talk about the chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5, and I'm gonna express what I learned and summarize the main points that were important to project-based learning. So in chapter 3, imagining the possibilities, some of the main points I thought were developing techniques and understanding for the type of projects incorporated in the class, making sure students and teachers understand the importance of technology, the benefits and understanding of learning, finding programs that best fit the needs of the teachers and students in creating their project. They also included examples of websites and blogs that could help with the project, like wikis, podcasts, Google, YouTube channel, etc. And teachers can create websites to post students' ideas. Other things that I learned in chapter 3 were take grade levels into consideration. Teachers should communicate with other teachers to find ideas. I believe this is a very big point because sometimes when you're teaching, you kind of get inside your head a little bit, and I always do well listening to other teachers and their ideas to help me in my planning of a lesson. And with technology, it's hard because you're so focused on how to make it work, and you have to add the creativity in it as well. Others are help students question, understand, apply, and analyze knowledge of their research, develop literary skills, and form ideas while teachers guide them. So trying to find ways to create technology or to create programs to help these kids and guide them in their growth mindset. Some last points that I made for chapter 3 were tools to help create digital project for your class is asking certain questions. I believe the best way to create a project and to have kids engage in a project is asking questions to help you answer what is best in your use of technology. So how will this project work in the world and help students learn? How can this project help students learn in general? Demonstrate their learning. Why should the students care? How can you connect each student's interest to this project? How will these projects help students share and demonstrate their ideas? What are the essential learning functions for the students? All these questions, I think, are big points to help guide teachers in their understanding of technology programs to incorporate in their lessons in class. Chapter 4 kind of goes through the techniques and how to make not too long, not too short of a project. Using certain online ideas like iEarn or PBLU, GlobalNet, and designing your project as a teacher. And then do more than traditional works. Find the projects that have major learning outcomes. Don't make it boring. Try to make it as fun and collaborative as possible. And then other points I got were make sure the project's formative assessment are taking place, check-in summatives, construction feedback, have flexible and use resources to help figure out fun, effective projects. They provide certain websites and resources that you can use to help you in that sense. And critical thinking techniques for the project, prediction, compare and contrast, cause and effect systems, identify patterns and change. Just more talking about how to make your project, like the steps in the process of making a successful project for your students. They said the best projects have different learning paths, help guide students to construct meaning, capture students' interests, have an audience to share, and are important learning dispositions. The book also gives project ideas and references to certain books for ideas on how to start. Step-by-step strategies helps integrate core standards, which is very important in our education system. And core standards tend to be boring for me at times when I'm teaching students, so I think having a project-based learning would be fun to incorporate the core standards in a different way. And then, yeah, juggle the students' interests, contain core standards at the right size, and comprise critical thinking. That's all 4. That's what I summed up. Chapter 5, making assessments meaningful. The chapter focuses on students' abilities and outcomes of projects. Teachers assess students and figure out achieved learning goals. Formative assessments, summative assessments, making sure that it's hitting the core requirements for the students, and that we as teachers are staying on task to help shape our learning outcome goals for our students. Chapter 5 also talks about examples of assessing second grade, which is my specialty. I want to go into second grade. So making a checklist to see if students are growing in their vocabulary and gaining the concepts through technology. I think that's really cool, to find different ways to help students with their spelling, grammar, vocabulary, all of that. Keep goals simple and not too complex, especially for the younger grades. Everything is a learning process, so you got to take it step by step and just guide the students to help them understand instead of having them memorize it. Allow students creativity and flow, and make sure they understand by asking them to summarize and synthesize their work. Always ask students questions, I think. The more you ask questions and the more you seem interested as a teacher, the more the student learns. If you're just telling them, they're not going to process it as easily. Other is my next slide talks about creates the projects to pertain to the real world. For example, I live by the ocean. I would want to do a project on the sea life, animals, or pollution, something like that, and form it into a project-based learning. Create a timeline that follows the main idea of the project and create milestones to help students feel comfortable once reached. Plan meetings with students to make sure they are on task. I think this was a very good point in the book, because then not only do you get to see what's going on as a teacher, but the student feels happy and excited to share something that they've learned with their teachers. Students always want to show teachers how smart they are, and I think the support and guidance is very good, and giving the feedback and guiding the students to developing their skills. Using Google Docs and certain websites to process these things easier, having students answer certain questions every night before they go to bed about their project, or stuff like that, to keep them engaged and ready for school tomorrow morning or the next morning. And my conclusion is the textbook had great ideas. It was precise and direct in teaching techniques for PBL, and I enjoyed reading and comparing my ideas with the books. I overall really enjoyed working with the class, and the textbook really helped, but I'm glad that we didn't have to just only read the textbook, because sometimes there are ideas in the textbook and examples, but it's harder to incorporate into a project. So I'm glad that we created this project to help us reiterate what we learned. And yeah, thank you for the semester. And these are my references.